There absolutely is a cure to insomnia. You don't have to take a drug, you don't have to deal with the frustrating side effects of those drugs, and it's nearly twice as effective as any medicine on the market. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBT-I. And it's not just the best form of treatment for insomnia, but it's also the one your physician is probably going to recommend before any drug. So let's talk about what CBT-I actually is, what happens in CBT-I, and why it's so effective at curing your insomnia. So first of all, let's define what we mean when we say insomnia.
There's a lot of different components, and it turns out there's several different types of insomnia. There's what we call I can't fall asleep or sleep onset insomnia. There's I can't stay asleep, which is called sleep maintenance insomnia. And then there's I wake up too early, and that's called sleep offset insomnia. And then there's another kind of insomnia that has more to do with the quality of your sleep. So I would argue there's probably 4 different subtypes under insomnia, but insomnia is basically a situation where you get in bed and at some point in time, you can't fall asleep or stay asleep.
And along with that, you feel significant daytime impairment. So here we're talking about feeling fatigued throughout the day. You might have trouble recalling certain events, or you may just feel irritable. But insomnia is more than just a lack of sleep. Insomnia can feel like this haunting presence of wakefulness. Like you want to sleep, but wakefulness just persists. In fact, Dr. Breus says that someone who has trouble sleeping can quickly find themselves in a spiral.
Most people with insomnia, genetically speaking, have got something going on which makes them a little bit more sensitive to different things which might provoke some level of anxiety. So we call this a predisposed effect that you have. Then there's a certain level of anxiety that occurs, let's say it's from an event, that brings you over the threshold of insomnia. Any type of thing that causes a significant level of stress. Your stress rises, you don't sleep, but then the stress is temporary, so it comes back down. But there's something that reminds you of this stress, which then brings your anxiety back up, and now you're stuck in that.
It's important to distinguish acute insomnia from chronic insomnia. Acute insomnia happens to us when we experience a major life stressor, like a divorce, maybe a loss of a loved one, or some other external cause. And while it's frustrating, acute insomnia usually only lasts for a few days or a few weeks. If you find yourself experiencing insomnia for longer than 3 months, then it's classified as chronic insomnia. This is defined as issues falling asleep or staying asleep that happen at least 3 nights a week and for longer than 3 months. Research indicates that about 10 to 15% of the population suffer from chronic insomnia, which is a lot of people. So whether you're in this camp of chronic insomnia or just experiencing a temporary bout of sleepless nights, these can have a big impact on your daily functioning. So it makes sense why many of us would desperately search for something, anything to help us sleep. And fun fact, according to a recent report, the market size for prescription sleep aids, drugs like Ambien, Sonata, and Trazodone, was $21.5 billion in 2023, and it's only projected to grow. But according to Dr. Brandon Peters, prescription sleep aids aren't really the best answer for curing insomnia.
Prescription medications have fairly modest effects on sleep as far as increasing the ability to fall asleep or reducing wakefulness in the night, increasing total sleep time.
In other words, while they may seem like a good option to put you to sleep, the sleep you're actually getting isn't as good as the all-natural kind. And what's more, these prescription sleep aids don't actually deal with the root of the cause of your inability to sleep. So with a pill, you get the potential for it to be habit-forming, you get less quality sleep, the effects tend to wane over time as your body gets used to it, and your sleep develops a dependency on these A's. There has to be a better way.
The American College of Physicians, which is our national academy for internal medicine providers, has been recommending CBT-I as first-line therapy, even before the use of sleeping pills, for adults with chronic insomnia since May of 2016. And the American Academy of Sleep Medicine also has had similar recommendations that CBT-I should be used first.
So here's how that might work. Maybe you made a mistake at work today. It happens, right? Your response to that mistake is to feel incredibly frustrated and anxious because in your mind, you might lose your job. Cognitive restructuring works by helping you to stop and assess the situation. You ask yourself, what evidence do I have that I'm going to lose my job? What evidence do I have that I'm not going to lose my job? What would someone else say in this situation? Or what is another explanation for this? And then finally, you make a plan for what to do next. The idea here is that rather than succumbing to a doom loop of negative thoughts and behaviors, you're retraining your response and anchoring that response to a different narrative that's more hopeful and productive. It's a profoundly effective tool for managing stress, anxiety, and yes, your sleep.
That's where the cognitive therapy is a very powerful tool. By addressing these thought patterns that may not be based in reality, we challenge them, create a little doubt there, we can diffuse some of the secondary emotional response to that.
CBT for insomnia works in a very similar way. Rather than succumbing to negative thoughts and emotions because you're having trouble sleeping, CBT-I tries to break that cycle by evaluating different parts of your sleep and sleep routine.
An example would be, I point out it's normal to wake up in the night. Most adults are going to wake every few hours through the night, and that can be a normal part of sleep. Often people roll over, they go right back to sleep. They don't even remember some of those awakenings. Folks who have insomnia might wake at that 2-hour interval, look at the clock, and get frustrated, angry, anxious. Those feelings are not conducive to going back to sleep. One of the elements might be normalizing the fact that it's okay to wake in the night. It doesn't have to be something that makes you feel upset. If you are able to more quickly go back to sleep, you won't even remember that awakening. But that's also something that we work through as a goal, is to try to help understand how our sleep fits with what should be accepted as far as normal sleep variability.
And the best part is that these techniques are proven and effective.
There's a fairly quick response in how our sleep changes. Within a week, typically, after making a behavioral change, sleep will respond and sort of fall in line.
So we know how CBT-I works, but what is it like to actually do? If you see a physician and they recommend CBT-I, what can you expect? Well, for starters, this is a very structured program. You'll meet with a professional for 45 to 60 minutes once a week for 6 weeks. In early sessions, you'll focus on general sleep issues you're facing.
Early on, it's a lot of education on normal sleep. So how much sleep do I need at this age? How do I fall asleep faster normally based on sleep drive? And with that education, again, giving very specific recommendations. Usually the person will start tracking their sleep patterns with a sleep log or sleep diary.
As you establish a baseline for your sleep, then you begin to target specific patterns to begin changing. This could be things like establishing a fixed wake-up time, delaying your bedtime, eliminating naps, and even starting a reduction in any sleep aids that you might be taking. Your later sessions then pivot to focus on ways for reducing stress.
So if you wake in the night, giving yourself something to think about so you can get back to sleep, but also just generally dialing back stress, because that can help to ease sleep as well. Late in the program, it's setting yourself up for long-term success.
Now, depending on your insurance or where you live, it could be difficult to find a provider for CBT-I. You should know there are plenty of resources out there that can lead you through this process without seeing a professional. The Veterans Administration offers a free resource for help, and Texas Health and Human Services has plenty of downloadable worksheets you can use. We'll link to both of those in the description below. And of course, there are many apps you can download to help with the process. Some of the most popular are CBT-I Coach, Night Owl, and Sleep Reset. But if you have the time and you can afford it, there really is no replacement for seeing a professional.
It kind of depends on your learning style and perhaps the motivation that you might need to engage in the program. Some people will get a book and just quickly read through the book and see what they've done or not done. But that's not really how CBT-I is meant to be applied. It's really meant to be incremental, modular, week by week, applying a set of skills and seeing how you respond and adjusting accordingly.
CBT-I is by far the most effective treatment for insomnia. Study after study shows that people who undergo CBT-I have better sleep quality over a longer period of time than any prescription sleep aid. In fact, a comparative review in 2012 looked at 5 different studies done on the effectiveness of CBT-I. Each of them concluded that CBT-I offered more long-term effectiveness than simply drugs alone.
A pill is only as good as the length of the dose or the half-life. Because what's great about CBT-I is you actually get a skill set that you can take with you everywhere and forever.
Plus, you get to avoid the risk of experiencing side effects or developing a habit. It's the most effective and proven way to cure your insomnia for good. If you've tried CBT-I, let us know in the comments what that experience was like and how it worked for you. We'd love to hear it. And of course, if you're struggling to sleep at night, sometimes just doing a few simple steps to reduce your anxiety can really be all that you need. So for some of our favorite tips on alleviating anxiety before you sleep, check out our video on that right here. Thanks for watching, everyone. Sleep well.